All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something literally fascinating. It's a highly proprietary, incredibly detailed astrological dossier from the JRO, the Jyotish Research Observatory. Basically, it's a financial blueprint for one specific person, born back in 2005, and it's titled The Alchemy of Wealth. And honestly, it's gonna blow your mind.
So imagine for a second being told that your absolute greatest financial success is, well, locked away in a cosmic vault. And the kicker? You don't get the key until you're well into your 40s, right? This blueprint totally flips our modern linear assumption on its head. The idea that hard work equals immediate cash. You can try to pick the lock, you can try to blow the doors off, but as we're about to see, this vault is absolutely not opening a single day earlier than it is mathematically scheduled to.
To figure out how to pick this cosmic lock, we're going to logically dissect this architecture piece by piece. We'll look at the cosmic vault, the ecosystem of wealth, the career wealth fusion, aligning the cosmic clock, the Saturn-mandated delay, and finally, the karmic wealth index.
Section 1. The cosmic vault. In the JRO's framework, the whole concept of wealth is completely redefined. It flat out rejects the idea that a massive bank account is just random blind luck. Instead, this source material looks at wealth as a karmic expression of a soul's growth, meaning it absolutely requires your active participation.
Moving on to Section 2, the ecosystem of wealth. To really understand how a vault is built, we have to look at the baseline ecosystem, how wealth is actually measured, in a chart across a very specific axis of 3 houses.
This breakdown brilliantly illustrates that ecosystem. So, the second house governs your self-worth and early conditioning. Think of it like your everyday checking account. It's the money you literally make with your own 2 bare hands. Then you have the 8th house, which is all about transformation and unearned money. We're talking investments, inheritances, or other people's money. Finally, in stark contrast to that checking account, the 11th house represents your wider network, the marketplace, and those massive sudden gains that you can scale through an audience. Now, for this native, her second house is ruled by Mercury and Saturn, which means her wealth is going to be highly intellectual and require immense, sustained discipline. In her 11th house, that links directly to humanitarian or creative work.
Now, this brings us to a super vital distinction. Winning the lottery, or what they call gifted wealth, usually shows up in charts with an overwhelming Jupiter or Uranus connected to that 8th house of other people's money we just talked about. But here's the thing, this native does not have the lottery chart. Nope, she has a foundation built strictly on earned wealth. It's kind of like building a slow-growth index fund over 30 years. It demands immense, sustained discipline, and there are absolutely no free rides. Just like in real life, her wealth is purely a byproduct of her actually rolling up her sleeves and doing the work. So, to figure out exactly what kind of work she needs to do, the JRO zooms all the way in using this fascinating Vedic technique. It's a microscopic secondary chart called the Navamsha, or D9 chart. You can think of it as the literal genetic code of her main birth chart. By looking at the second house in this D9 chart, they pinpoint her deep, soul-level wealth identity. And for her, it lands in the sign of Virgo, ruled by Saturn, sitting right there in her 10th house of public career. Basically, what this means is she absolutely cannot separate her financial success from meticulous, service-oriented career mastery. She literally has to be in the trenches.
Section 3, the career wealth fusion. If her baseline requires constant effort, what actually elevates it? Let's take a look at the powerful catalyst, the engine that takes her conditional potential and shoots it right into the stratosphere.
The real heavy lifting in her chart is done by something called a Parivartana Yoga. Imagine 2 kings who leave their respective castles and go sit on each other's thrones, permanently linking all their resources. That's exactly what's happening here. In her chart, Mars and Venus literally swap thrones between her 10th house of career and her 11th house of gains. They are permanently fused together, creating this incredible, infinite feedback loop.
To really wrap your head around this, just imagine a corporate merger. Usually, the 10th house is your branding and PR department, and the 11th house is your sales and revenue department. Most of the time, they operate in completely separate parts of the building. But for her, the walls are completely knocked down. They share the exact same office. Every single time she builds her public reputation, the sales department rings the register. But here is the massive catch. She cannot take a job just for a paycheck. If she takes a role that doesn't actively elevate her public profile, her entire engine just stalls out completely.
The JRO report actually scores this specific Parivartana activation a massive 8.5 out of 10. This is absolutely the powerhouse of her financial chart. But,
What good is a 1,000-horsepower engine if you don't know when you actually get to turn the keys, right?
Which brings us to Section 4, aligning the cosmic clock. To mathematically predict exactly when this engine turns on, the GRO stacks multiple timing techniques on top of each other. It functions exactly like tumblers falling into place on a giant combination lock.
So, the most personal dial on this lock is the dasha. In Vedic astrology, your life is basically divided into distinct chapters, and every single one is managed by a planetary CEO that shifts your internal focus. The report flags a super crucial Moon-Venus dasha window arriving in 2028 and 2029. And remember, Venus is one of those kings we just talked about swapping thrones, ruling her 11th house of sudden gains. So as we build up to 2028, management is officially being handed directly over to her wealth engine.
The craziest part is how all these totally independent dials just click open simultaneously in 2028. Watch how these pieces snap together. Step 1, her internal firmware updates to demand independence as the progressed sun enters Aries. Step 2, her self-worth solidifies with lunar arc Venus. Step 3, the Venus dasha turns on the wealth engine from the inside. And finally, externally, transiting Jupiter, which is the architect of expansion, hands her the blueprints right in her 10th house of career. It is a mathematically precise breakthrough.
Section 5, the Saturn-mandated delay. Now, here is where we hit a major contradiction. If she has this massive multi-dial breakthrough at age 23 in 2028, why does the report insist her true wealth is locked away in a vault until her 40s?
Well, it all comes down to Saturn. Think of Jupiter as the visionary architect who enthusiastically brings all the funding to build a 100-story skyscraper. Awesome, right? But Saturn? Saturn is the strict city inspector who comes in with a clipboard and points out that the foundation can currently only hold 20 stories. Because Saturn has total jurisdiction over her wealth identity, this inspector actively restricts her true empire from forming too early. It's literally to prevent the lottery winner curse, ensuring her vessel is actually strong enough to hold the massive wealth without completely breaking her foundation. Her chart acts almost exactly like a long-term treasury bond. It's a really powerful reminder to all of us that sometimes what feels like a painful delay is actually just a period of necessary consolidation. 2028 is just the breakthrough. It's the practice run where she finally gets her autonomy. Then, between 2034 and 2036, she hits her Saturn return. That's a profound financial consolidation where she transitions into actual leadership. But the monumental peak, the real major windfall, doesn't actually arrive until her Rahu-Venus dasha in 2046, well into her 40s. And finally, a global legacy phase hits around 2060.
Section 6, the Karmic Wealth Index. Let's see how the JRO quantifies all of this incredibly complex cosmic architecture into a single, actionable final metric.
So after scoring all her planetary variables and calculating her karmic debt, the JRO gives her a karmic wealth index of 75.7%. You can think of this kind of like a cosmic credit score. Now, a high score is great, obviously, but the cosmic bank is not going to just miraculously deposit a mansion into her checking account while she sits on the couch eating chips. No way. The 75.7% simply means the bank is highly likely to approve the loan, but she still has to submit the paperwork by leaning heavily into that meticulous Virgo mandate of service and extreme hard work. The source material actually ends its rigorous analysis with this really profound realization. It states, wealth is not a goal, it is a byproduct. Her chart proves mathematically that if she chases money in the shadows, her engine will literally stall. But if she focuses on contribution, mastery, and building her public authority, the wealth just becomes an inevitable byproduct.
Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought, to reconsider our own timelines. In a culture totally obsessed with overnight success, what if your greatest financial peak is purposely being delayed by your own cosmic inspector simply so you can build a foundation strong enough to actually survive it? Are you just trying to blow the hinges off the vault today, or are you actually building the structure to hold what's inside? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating explainer with us, and keep questioning the timelines in your own life.